seeing the obesity that ran in my family and how it pretty much took my mother away from me. Man, you wonder why I get up every day and I run, rain, sleet, or snow, or I'm out moving? I didn't like seeing that. That stays in my mind. That ain't going nowhere. What made me start the podcast? I started the podcast when I found out that my mom was diagnosed with cancer. She had breast cancer. And, for those of you who have family members, loved ones, or friends who have been through this experience, you know how traumatic it can be, and you know how draining it could be if you are a caregiver for such a person. So I wanted to figure out a way to deal with sort of expressing myself, because I felt like I was semi-depressed, but without going off the deep end, so to speak. Being transparent. I have cocktails. I like good food. I exercise a lot. I sleep very well. I journal and I pray. These are all things that I do. But even with that, sometimes you can become self-absorbed in your own thoughts to where if you don't have your mind to gravitate with the right thoughts, the bad thoughts sort of outweigh the good thoughts. And it's sort of like when you have a loved one that goes through something like that, it's like the bad automatically just starts to eat away at you, or you'll start to question yourself as to, well, in my case, whether or not, I was a good caregiver, because there were plenty of days when I broke down. When a person is that sick and you don't really understand it that much, your patience, your ability to cope, it becomes very thin at times, because you're still dealing with life. You're still dealing with work. You're still dealing with your significant other. You're still dealing with kids. And more than anything, you're still dealing with yourself. Sometimes I think that you don't consider how much time it takes to know who you are. Most of the time, who you are now is who people think you should be. So you're doing all the things because, your parents or your family raised you, and they say, based on society, you should be X, right? So you sort of force yourself to fit within the confines of what people think you should be. In addition to that, you're also shown or taught, here is how you should or should not express your emotions. Very commonly with Black men is, don't you cry. You better not cry. You better be strong. And you don't realize the impact of that until you become an adult. And it's almost like you become, I want to say, insensitive and numb to yourself, to the point to where you don't realize how much pain you are in, and or how much you shut other people out and how much it hurts them. And I think that, in full transparency, I've done all of these things. I did not know how to express my emotions with the correct words. Therefore, it led to me breaking things, damaging the relationship with my girlfriend or my wife now, caused me to damage friendships. It was a lot. And then you reach the point to where you say, hey, I need help. So you go to get help. And then once you go to get help, finding help is like dating. So you have to go through different providers and see which one is the right fit, And I didn't understand the process at the time when I first started therapy. It was sort of like there's an onboarding or screening process. And during that screening process, not every therapist, but it was one particular therapist that asked me if I was gay, in which sexual preference doesn't matter to me. But the point that really upset me was when they asked me whether or not I was doing drugs or if I was in a gang. And I think the gang part sort of was like a trigger for me. Why? Because I'm a black man and I have to be in a gang, or because I live in an urban area, like I have to do drugs. Like it struck the wrong chord in me. And maybe at the time I wasn't aware of the process that this may be questions that they ask everyone, but I was offended. So I never went back. All that to say, how did I get to this point? Or what keeps me going is the big question. A lot of people look at what I do on social media and it paints this picture like everything is perfect. It's not. Life is hard. I lost my mother recently. I still care for my grandmother. I, have younger children. I have a wife. I've started 2 businesses simultaneously. I left a career that I was at for 13 years and jumped, And for those of you who are thinking about taking that leap of faith and starting something and doing something on your own, I'm going to tell you, as crazy as it sounds, I've fell and I've bust my ass or bust my face open probably twice. This is my 3rd time. My advice to you is build a cushion, whatever that cushion is. Some people say 6 months, some people say a year. But my advice is at least minimally 1 month, right? Because no matter how much you plan for everything, something's bound to go wrong, right? That's one. You don't want to go through life wishing that you did something and now you have this pent up aggression because you're at a job or you're in a relationship that you don't like because you didn't. One, it's actually the same thing. Because you did not have enough belief in yourself to move on, to be alone for a minute, to be scared for a minute, to figure it out, to realize that the darkness is actually your friend. Because the darkness, I'm going to say darkness, closing your eyes and sometimes your ears and just listening inside. That part of you has all the answers, but you've been taught to believe that the answers are on the outside. And your mind will start playing tricks on you when you don't see the result that you think that it's supposed to look like. I'm going to tell you, the result, it doesn't, for me, it doesn't look like what I anticipated it to look like. But when I feel the life that I live, I feel that I'm on the path. Again, so what drives me, what keeps me going? A lot of it is discipline. My grandfather was in the military. I think he served in the Korean War. And in the military, it's very structured. So his structure rubbed off on my mom, which basically rubbed off on me, partially triggered by fear, because if I didn't do what I was supposed to do, I got whipped. So my defense mechanism was to do things the best that I could so that I wouldn't get whipped. And slightly, it still works for me till this day, because I know if I'm working at a job and I do the best that I can and you can't question what I've done, that fear keeps me on point because I don't like it. And another word that I would use is pain. When you get your ass whipped hard enough, the way I got whipped when I was a kid, you don't want to feel that pain anymore. So you'll do everything within your will and power to stay away from that pain. And that's just to circle back as to what drives me. It's those two things. It's pain and fear. If I allow myself to get comfortable, there could be a painful experience that I don't want to go through or be reminded of. If I don't push myself, or if you don't push yourself, you're going to allow the fear of not knowing what's going to happen to drive you. So you have to figure out a way to create a small system in your life to live within a certain amount of discipline. And it doesn't have to be everything. It's just what you hold valuable to your heart. What makes you feel good? What makes you feel alive? Independence makes me feel alive. Having the ability to choose makes me feel alive. Not fitting in makes me feel alive. Helping others makes me feel alive. So you have to find that, people say, the why. Why do you want to do what it is that you want to do? And when you couple that with the trigger of pain or fear, you'll get your ass up and do what you're supposed to do, because you know you don't want to go back there. I don't want to be that kid that was being teased when I was younger because I had, raggedy clothes on. So I make sure I stay fresh. I don't want to be the kid that was teased for being chubby. So I eat certain foods and work out on a daily basis. But even deeper than that, seeing the obesity that ran in my family and how it pretty much took my mother away from me. Man, you wonder why I get up every day and I run, rain, sleet, or snow, or I'm out moving? I didn't like seeing that. That stays in my mind. That ain't going nowhere. It pushes me. Or sometimes when you have that boss or that job that you don't like and you manage to get away from that environment, and when you think about going back to that environment, how bad it made you feel, no, then you start figuring it out. It's the comfort part that keeps you where you're at. But when you have that pain and that fear behind you and it's pushing you, it becomes the driver. And then you couple that on top of reinforcing by saying to yourself who you are becoming. You're becoming smarter. You're becoming healthier. You're becoming stronger. You're becoming a better business person. You're becoming more creative. And you start that with I am becoming. It's mindset. The discipline and the mindset will shift your life. And then on top of that, when you start to be mindful of the things you listen to, the things you read, the people you interact with, when you close your eyes and really visualize what you want to see around yourself, and you start to command your reality, man, things change. But when you let that outside noise fool you, then you start to question yourself. This is the thinking effect, where we help you do your daily best. Thank you for listening.